Well, that's the same thing with the IgG. And the IgG has been used in multiple cases across the United States. Defenses have asked for that information. They have never gotten it, and it's never been an issue. Nothing's ever gotten appealed. In this case, the judge allows for some of the information. And like I said, I don't care if he gets that information or not. That doesn't change the fact that his actual DNA from his cheek matched the DNA that was on the sheath, regardless of whatever all that other stuff happened with his cousin, his evil twin, or whatever the case may be. His DNA match to the 5.8 octillion. Like, you have to go to a different parallel universe, and it's probably still him in that universe that matches the DNA. And even though they're saying that, hey, your argument is futile, but I'm going to entertain it, well, now they're sitting on something that's going to take over a year. So do you think that the court put themselves in this situation?
I think so. Like you said, they give him so much stuff already. They're asking for a lot, and they're trying to provide that for him. So, like, for them trying to put these motions in effect just to delay, and I think I actually think they're gonna at least try to delay it until 2026, man. It sure looks like it. That's what they're trying to.
Yeah, and not only that, they're going to try to push it further. Well, here's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it so that they get a change of venue. As you can see, that the prosecution says that it's going to take 6 weeks. How long is typically a summer break? Like 8 weeks, 9 weeks, somewhere around there. It's not very long, and that's really pushing it. And when you have, that last week when class is out and the first one before class is in is probably just as hectic. You got people moving back, people moving into houses and off-campus houses and things of that nature. In my opinion, them asking for a 12 to 15 week spread and it being and the prosecution already playing their hand that they only want to do it in the summer. Even the judge said it at a certain point. It's like, I think we're starting to lean more towards a change of venue. And I think that that's what all this tactic is to get a change of venue, which I'm not against. Are you against a change of venue in this case?
I think they should have done it from the beginning.
Yeah.
Should have not waited till right now that the trial was possibly the start on during summer. They should have not waited. They should have done it from the beginning. That way they don't have to have these inconveniences, traffic, and especially the media circuit that's going to happen with the trial, and then plus you still got the high school and the college.
Yeah, and like I said, the defense is going to make it just as hard as they possibly can so that they can force the hand on the change of venue. Now they can only go into the state of Idaho. They can't leave the state of Idaho, so they can't go and select people out of Washington or Pullman because that's across state lines. I don't know where they're going to put this jury at, but I'm pretty sure they can find a court that is not next to a high school in a college town, that houses as many college students as Moscow does. So I don't see the problem with that. I think that it also works in the favor of the victims' families, as far as they don't have to wait until the school has time to allow this court trial to happen. They can get their justice as soon as possible when the court deems it ready to be, and not because of the school. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, man. Like, if they're thinking it's gonna take so long, it's gonna go into the start of the after the summer. So it makes no sense.
It really doesn't. Like I said, to me, it's just going around in circles. And I asked the question, yesterday. I asked Ann Taylor, the other attorney that's out there. They are death penalty certified lawyers. They can try these cases, which probably means that they've had experiences in murder cases in the past. Maybe not even death penalty murder cases, but murder cases in the past, these felony cases. They haven't attempted this angle, right? They haven't gone down saying, hey, the burden of proof in for the indictment, wasn't met because it's supposed to be beyond reasonable doubt instead of just probable cause. So that leads me to believe that if it hadn't been brought up before, I wonder if this is a move that's done by Bryan Kohberger. And if it's a move that's done by him, and you've already seen the arguments that he's had. The first one is the IgG, which, like I've said before, when it comes to trial and the evidence that and the work that the police have done, what's entered in trial are things that either exclude the defendant or things that prove that it's him, right? Like inadmissible stuff or things that were found wrong or any of those type of things. That evidence, it can't be used against that person. It doesn't mean that the case goes away. It just means that piece of specific evidence can't be used. And when it comes to the IgG, the only thing you can do is have the IgG entered into evidence because it's currently not being used, just to have it thrown out. And so you're back at square one. It has nothing to do with the STR, has nothing to do with Bryan Kohberger's DNA on his cheek. None of those things apply to the IgG. That is separate. And in fact, that STR profile that was used to match Bryan Kohberger was created before the IgG. In fact, the IgG required the STR to be completed first. And so when the fruit of the poisonous tree occurs, you can only throw out the evidence up to the point when it first occurred. You can't throw out anything before that. So if there was an issue with the IgG, you can only go up to the IgG point. You can't go up to the STR point. And so it ends up being a big circle. You have this thing going into a big circle where, they're trying to argue this claim that they know is just going to get them back to square one. And now they're pushing it out further. Do you think that this is another way that Bryan Kohberger could be, re-victimizing the families, pushing it out like this? I mean, this seems almost purposefully done, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, man. The victim's family, I'm sure they're devastated knowing that they're gonna have to wait to seek justice.
Mhm.
And it's sad. It's a real sad situation, because they're talking about 25, maybe 26, which I doubt. I hope it's not until the 26, man. I mean, we're pushing it with the 2025, and it's just I know the not only they're gonna have to wait that long, the victim's family, but they also gotta endure the trial itself. Listen to all the details and kind of relive what their loved ones had to go through that night.
Yeah. I mean, it's just there's no closure, right? The
Mhm.
families can't get closure. The families can't get rest. There's no justice until justice is, obviously served. You can tell that the defense's arguments are going to be weak because they're already anticipating in their verbiage. Now, I understand preparing and planning for something, right? Like if I was a lawyer and I would tell my client, like, hey, we're going to go into trial, but we're also going to prepare for your appeals. But I'm not going to go up there and say, we're planning for a trial to last 28 years because of the appeals that are going to have to happen, because that means that you're expecting your client to be found guilty. I just think that this prolonging things is just him still controlling the narrative, controlling the game. Everything's on his time. When he wants to do the alibi is on his time. He's even telling them now that he's possibly still can give them an alibi. I was thinking about his alibi.
Mm-hmm.
He said that his alibi could be brought up in cross-examination. What do you think that means?
No, I don't know when his alibi came out, but was it before or after we heard that there was a tip or a possible witness? Did we hear that first and then we heard the alibi, or did we hear that about the alibi first before the potential witness?
I don't remember which one came first. I think maybe the witness came first that I'm aware of. I know that there's a possible witness in this case. And
okay, so you think that's why he had to actually come out with that kind of alibi just to...
No, I think the reason why he came out with his alibi that he was driving around is because when they picked up Bryan Kohberger, right, when they figured out who he was, up until that point,